right back. Welcome back, everyone. Now let's begin with some developments in the polity. President Bola Tinubu has been appointed as the African Union Champion for Human Resources for Health and Community Health Delivery Partnership. This is in recognition of President Tinubu's commitment to train 120,000 frontline health workers in Nigeria and to double the number of primary health facilities in communities across all local government areas of the Federation, from 8,800 to over 17,000 over the next 3 years. The Commission of the African Union, in a letter to Nigeria's Ministry of Foreign Affairs, said President Tinubu was appointed on the recommendation of the Committee of Heads of State and Government of Africa under the leadership of President Azali Assoumani, President of the Union of Comoros and Chairperson of the African Union. Let's cross over to Ondo State now, where 6 out of the 8 members of the All Progressives Congress in the House of Representatives from Ondo State are seeking President Bola Tinubu's intervention in the political crisis rocking the state. They accuse Governor Lucky Aiyedatiwa of disregarding the party and its hierarchy since the assumption of office in January. Our National Assembly correspondent, Jakadisa, has more.
All is not well within the fold of the All Progressives Congress in Ondo State, southwest Nigeria. The death of former Governor Rotimi Akeredolu in December last year changed the political temperature of the state. Already, aggrieved party members in the state are pointing accusing fingers at the new governor, Lucky Aiyedatiwa, and most of them are members of the APC in the House of Representatives from Ondo State. In a letter to President Bola Tinubu, 6 out of the 8 APC federal lawmakers are seeking his prompt intervention in resolving the political logjam in the state. They list the many sins of the state governor, accusing him of undermining the party's leadership. Among the allegations against the governor is the balkanization of the political structure of the former governor, Rotimi Akeredolu.
Recent events have revealed Governor Aiyedatiwa's apparent eagerness to erase the legacy of the late Akeredolu from the moment he took office and refused to observe a minute of silence in honor of the late principal.
We are here to cry out that we don't want the legacy of our boss Akeredolu for somebody to come in within a month and want to erase everything. We don't want that.
They also accused Governor Lucky Aiyedatiwa of appointing Rotimi Akeredolu's political opponent as deputy governor.
The governor has created a significant divide and caused deep discord among party members. Currently, the party's state chairman, Engineer Adetime, is being marginalized and sidelined.
This is a change of government within the same party. And we are not supposed to continue to divide the party. All what has happened in the past has gone. It's politics. We represent our people. We are the voice of our people. And our people are complaining. And we need to speak up so that the people will know that what is going on in Ondo State is not normal.
In the wake of the political stalemate arising from Rotimi Akeredolu's ill health, President Bola Tinubu's intervention that a then Deputy Governor Lucky Aiyedatiwa be put in acting capacity saved the day. These aggrieved lawmakers now want President Bola Tinubu to pull out his magic wand once again so that the party's influence in the state does not wane. Jokeyadsa, TVC News, Abuja.
And back to the nation's capital, President Bola Tinubu and the 36 state governors have agreed to begin the conversation around the possibility of establishing state police and also increasing the numeric strength of forest rangers to complement and sustain the gains recorded by the armed forces and other security agencies. These are some of the resolutions reached at a meeting convened by President Tinubu to deliberate on better ways to ensure food security and improve the quality of lives and livelihood. The president also ordered a clampdown on individuals and groups hoarding food items and other commodities, which is responsible for the soaring prices and high cost of living. TVC News State House correspondent Femi Akonde reports.
Meeting between President Bola Tinubu and the 36 state governors ended with critical resolutions that will provide solutions in the interim and in the future. The food crisis has piled pressure on governments at all levels and also threatens national security. Among several solutions thrown at ensuring food security, the federal government insists there are no plans to import food as Nigeria has the potential to feed itself.
The governors and Mr. President have taken the decision that security agencies will cooperate or collaborate with the state governors to ensure that this ends. Number two, a decision has also been taken that in the interest of our country, there will be no need for food importation at this point. Nigeria has the potential to feed itself and even be a next exporter of food items to other countries.
In considering a holistic approach to implementing the state of emergency declared in the agriculture sector by President Bola Tinubu in the early days of his administration, there seems to be a consensus on the need to establish state police and enhance the capacity of forest rangers to complement the efforts of conventional security agencies.
They have thanked Mr. President for all that he's doing, and they've also asked him to do more so that at the end of the day, we will have a completely secured Nigeria. Now, in this direction, Mr. President and the state governors have also discussed the possibility of improving the numeric strength of forest rangers. Now, there is also a discussion around the issue of state police. The federal government and the state governments are mulling the possibility of setting up state police.
As the days begin to count, the federal government must also double its efforts at ensuring food is available and affordable. It also must continue to guarantee the safety of lives and property. Femi Akonde, TVC News, Abuja.
Let's take a short break, and when we return, it will be time to speak with our guest of the day, Dr. Inemeka Obiariri, an investment banker, creative financial engineer, and forensic auditor on dollar inequality and impact on Nigerian economy. Please stay with us. We'll be right back.
Lives on the fast track of numbers. Business is a strange world where low numbers mean something different. And its currency are speed and time. Finding the open doors of Main Street is not just good business, it's the start of the business. Join us every weekend on Business Week.
Experience information and entertainment like never before as TVC Breakfast takes your weekends to a whole new level. Introducing TVC Breakfast Weekend Edition, your ultimate source of thrilling sports updates, insightful political
Welcome back, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us again. It's still about the economy tonight as we focus on dollar illiquidity and impact on the Nigerian economy. My guest tonight is Dr. Inemeka Obiariri, an investments banker, creative financial engineer, and forensic auditor. Thank you so much for joining us, Doctor. Really glad to have you on Politics Tonight. Thank you. Right. So, interestingly, this is the third time we're having this discussion this week, and this is so because something just has to happen. I mean, as we set to get to the root causes of this issue, it's also very important for us to know the short-term measures that can help us strengthen our Naira. So the first question to you now is, why is the Naira in such a low state?
Naira is in such a low state because the last administration emptied the treasury and left no room for Nigeria to be able to stabilize price of goods and services in the market. And I will explain it. If you look at Yemi Cardoso's last press release, he mentioned clearly that the Central Bank of Nigeria inherited unpaid letter of credit obligation forward of about $7 billion. We simply mean that not only was the treasury empty, we also did not even have dollar liquidity position to pay obligations contracted by the Central Bank of Nigeria. And we know what happened. It was a bazaar for 8 years. And I want us to understand this, and then before we'll be able to provide solution. Going back to history, go and check and verify this. Between 2015 to 2023, total dollar inflow to the farmer market into Nigeria was about $635 billion. Export proceeds of $406 billion. I will break it down. Borrowing of $32 billion. Reserve inherited of $29 billion. Foreign diaspora remittances of $168 billion over the 8 years. Total import bill, including education and health tourism, was about $451 billion. Net inflow, net. Nigeria should be having about $184 billion net inflow in our reserve. Basically, why did Yemi Cardoso meet an empty treasury? We know that 23 trillion naira was printed and wasted over that 8 years. We also know that over 18.6 trillion was borrowed. As at June 30, 2015, total debt profile of Nigeria was 12 trillion. Out of that 10 trillion, $10 billion was dollar related and the rest was naira. Buhari left it at 77 trillion naira. And now, there was also money that were supposed to come into the differential account that got missing along the line. Between 2011 and 2015, Nigeria was doing average crude oil production daily of about 2.3 to 2.5 million barrels, crude oil and condensates. Under Buhari, it disappeared to such a level that even the GMD, current GMD of NNPC, was live on Arise TV, and he mentioned it clearly that on a monthly basis, Nigeria loses $1.9 billion worth of crude oil resources to thieves and inefficiency. Over $22 billion that was supposed to come to the professional account lost. So basically, we have a hole of $185 billion. We're talking about former remittances and receipts. We're not talking about dollar cash that came in through Nigerians and diaspora. Because we know that traditionally, most Nigerians come in with cash. We're talking about those funds that flew in through the former sector. So basically, we have a hole that was created through the bazaar that happened over the last 8 years. And we cannot start an inquest on fixing this. Obasanjo experienced the same thing when he became president in 1999. Our dollar inflow, our dollar resources were filtered out of Nigeria by the Abacha family and their associates. What Obasanjo did was quietly call them to order, negotiated with them. See, today, some of the monies Abacha took out of Nigeria is still being recovered. I think the current president, irrespective of the fact that they are an extension of the old government, must take out time. If they don't have the capacity, they should engage forensic investigators, investment bankers, and auditors. We have many experienced Nigerians in this economy that can help them to track what happened to those huge dollar inflows that disappeared. And one of the shortest ways we can show up that liquidity is not even to borrow, because we don't even have headroom to borrow. It's for us to go after those that took our dollar in a very scientific and concerted way and negotiate with them to bring back part of these dollars out of the system. That is one way Nigerians can be reassured that we are doing the right thing. The second one, we must stop the criminal demand on the dollar. If you watch, Yemi Cardoso took some deft monetary policy and FX policy moves that stabilized the naira to the dollar over the last 2 weeks. It hovered between 1485 to 1500. But over the last 4 or 5 days, it had galloped to over 1600. Why? We recently shared FAC and Jack to the governors. And this is the truth, and this is something we cannot miss. Go and check. Once they receive the FAC, once they receive the Jack, they pursue the dollar at whatever rate. And that is why we are where we are today. Insecurity is another issue. Because most of the things
Doctor, before we get to the matter of insecurity, I mean, some of the reasons you've highlighted before now, are you saying these are the reasons? I mean, these reasons are also responsible for a dollarized economy in Nigeria?
Yes, that is exactly what I've explained to you. See, the FX market, just like any commodity or currency market, is driven by the simple law of demand and supply. Once the supply of any commodity or currency far exceeds the demand, the prices will be stable. In fact, the naira will gain over the dollar. I've just simply explained to you, this does not take any skyrocket science. Our total dollar inflow from 2015 to 2023 was far more than our total dollar outflow through honest transactions. So what happened to the excess $184 that came into this market? That is the question we should be asking. We have a lot of leakages, crude oil theft, and a lot of things that happened within those periods. See, we cannot solve the problem by closing our eyes to what happened and to why we are where we are today. Look at what happened between Obasanjo's government, Yar'Adua's government, Jonathan's government. A period of 60 years, naira to dollar lost only 111 naira. It was 88 naira when Obasanjo became president. Exchange rate. When Jonathan left, it was 199 naira. 111. Under Buhari, we had an arbitrage gap between the parent, and if you watch from Obasanjo to Jonathan, the arbitrage gap between the autonomous market rate, official rate, and parent was only between 1 naira, 152 naira. But under Buhari and Emefiele, there was a huge gap that even sense could not resist playing the kind of game that happened within those periods. So the truth is, when it comes, I will have solutions, things we can do in the short term, in the medium term, in the long term, to make sure that this economy is rescued. But I can tell you, everything I'm going to say will still go back to the very foundation of this country that we need to fix.
Right, so we'll get there, but let's take it one step at a time. On February 1st, the CBN continued its foreign exchange market reforms by removing the limits on the forex rate quoted by international money transfer operators. And for the CBN, this is aimed at strengthening the naira. How optimistic are you about these latest steps?
Very optimistic. But like I said, very optimistic, but these measures are only elixirs. These measures are only what I call opiates. They are not panacea to the root cause of the problem. Basically, what Yemi Cardoso have done is to remove those caps. It simply means you can bring in your dollar, negotiate with whoever is buying from you at whatever rate, hand over dollar and take naira within the local economy, which is very, very good. And you could see the impact of what happened over the first 1 week when he put in place this measure. Most foreign portfolio investment, which we call hot money, those are not the kind of investment we are looking at. At least temporarily, it is providing reprieve, came into this country. For the first time, we had over $1 billion liquidity. Because what basically did was to bring in dollar, do swap with CBN in such a way that they are having a rate of return that they cannot get anywhere within other economies in the West or in Asia. But these are temporary reprieves. Yemi can only do 10% because he's just doing the budget. But the 90% of the problem is on the physical side. Yemi does not print dollar, number one. Yemi is not the one that controls and protects our crude oil assets. It's the NNPC. Yemi is not the one that controls allocations to the governors. Yemi is not EFCC. And Yemi has no power or authority to stop those who collect FAC and Jack from using it to buy dollar at whatever rate that they can see. Most of the steps Yemi Cardoso have taken are actually interventionism. And interventionism does not solve the root cause of the problem. I have explained to you clearly where the root cause of these problems are. Our crude oil outputs must be ramped up to 2.5 million barrels a day, even to 3 million barrels a day. And again, in the short run, NNPC, as currently structured, is not like the British Petroleum, the Petrobras, or the Petronas of this whole world. The federal government of Nigeria has no business still controlling 100% stake in NNPC. If today we want to flow liquidity massively into the economy, the federal government of Nigeria should take urgent steps to sell down 55% of its holding in NNPC, just like they did in the LLNG. If you look at LLNG today, it is owned 51% by private investors and 49% by the federal government of Nigeria. And it is so efficiently run with corporate governance cultures in place. If we decide to sell 55% of our holding there, that's about $32 billion that will inflow into this economy. Then somebody will tell me, oh, doctor, it's going to take a long process. Yes. But if you appoint a book runner or an investment banking group like a JP Morgan Chase, a Goldman Sachs, to midwife this, even on the interim, against the proceeds that will come from this sale over time, we can inflow in about $15–20 billion as preliminary funding, a kind of a bridging facility towards this. But the truth is, if we decide today to adopt this step, over the next 2–3 years, we will have inflowing into this economy over $50 billion new investment. And I will tell you this, Nigeria in the past have done about 2.5 million barrels a day. Those oil wells are there. Most of them have been capped by the oil majors. Nigeria has capacity to ramp up our reserve to about 40 billion barrels a day. 40 billion barrels. Nigeria can do 3 million barrels a day. Even if our open quota is 1.78 million barrels, we can refine the rest. Going forward, if we are to do marginal field rounds, any company that must get our marginal field, unlike before, when we just touch it based on people that know their way into Aso Rock, anybody or any company that wants to get a marginal field block must show capacity by way of getting a letter of guarantee from a Class A bank. And if you have a field that can do up to 1,000, 5,000 barrels a day, you must collocate a modular refinery to be able to refine it here. We can meet our open quota and refine even the excess within this economy. Nigeria has capacity to provide the wide petroleum product need of the rest of Sub-Saharan Africa. After all, some of them coming from Kazakhstan, from Russia, cannot be able to meet the logistics when we have it being refined here in Nigeria. There are different things we can do to show up the supply side of the dollar in such a way that when the supply is more than $1, if we are producing 2.5 million barrels of crude today, net, we are grossing $68 billion into this. And if you check the import volume annually, from 2010 till now, on average, our import volume through honest transactions is no more than $56 billion, average over the last 10 years. Basically, what has been driving the fall of the Naira is 50% driven by the volume of monumental corruption by the fiscal managers across the 3 tiers of arms of government in Nigeria.
All right. So, Doctor, if you're saying that the CBN interventions, the latest steps taken by CBN are long-term measures, how then do we fix the supply side of the dollar?
I've explained it to you. To fix the supply side of the dollar, short-term, the first measure, get forensic auditors and investigators to work with the FCC to follow the money trail and to go after those who cannot account for the excess $184 billion that came into this economy. Even if they agree to bring 70%, it will help us. And it will also put out there the right signal to the global world. Number 2, protect our oil resources and assets. Ramp up output to 2.5 million barrels a day. Number 3, put in place anti-corruption measures that stops the purchase of the dollar using corrupt proceeds. And I've advocated what we can do. It's very simple. Amend the CCB Act. Every elected political office holder, just as it is done everywhere in the whole world, must be able to declare their assets and liabilities publicly. And it must be established in an e-portal where it can be seen and renewed annually. Number 2, the whistleblowing provision must be enshrined in that act in such a way that every Nigerian become an agent of EFCC. If you blow a whistle that helps to recover a stolen fund by way of assets or whatever, you will get 20% of it and protect them. Such laws will enable Nigeria, even the bankers that will help you to move the money, will even blow the whistle. And if the policeman arrests you, you've stolen 1 billion, he will collect 10 million naira to leave you, knowing fully whether he can make 200 million naira, picking you up and prosecuting you. These are measures. And the CCP must be established in every of the local government areas in Nigeria. Agencies under PPP framework. There are many ways we can do this. Then we must divest and devolve security to the constituent units. The food shortages we have in Nigeria today is because of insecurity. Both peasants and commercial farmers are not going to their farms because of insecurity. And it has been proven over time that the current security architecture of Nigeria cannot fix the insecurity. Buhari wasted $27 billion over the last 8 years. Yet insecurity festered from the northeast to every part of Nigeria today. If we want to fix insecurity, we need to devolve security back to what we had in the 1960s. Absolutely. Allow the regions and the communities, train them, empower them. People did it in Anambra State when he was governor. Kidnappers were on the prowl. People could not go to Onitsha to go and purchase things. He decided to set up vigilantes, allowing the communities to contribute their own sons. He equipped them, gave them trust, gave them arms. In 6 months, they cleared their community of those vermins. Even the forest where they were hiding, he got permission from Yar'Adua to clear those forests. For 5 years, Anambra was the most secure state in Nigeria under his rule. We can replicate it in every part of Nigeria. Security is indigenous. Only the people of the communities will have the incentive, the motivation to protect themselves and allow them to go to the farms. No need waiting until state police is established. Communities, vigilantes, empower. If you have organized vigilantes in communities with AK-47, with armored personnel carriers in every local government areas, and they put gates into the exit and entry points in their communities, I tell you, in 6 months, every part of Nigeria will be secure. Imagine Amotokun, where Amotokun have AK-47 and they have APC.
All right, Doctor. We still have a segment, or we still have some minutes later on in the show to dwell on security matters. But I'd like us to, for some minutes, dwell on the latest steps taken by the Central Bank of Nigeria, so ordinary Nigerians can understand better, especially where the CBN is coming from. Now, the Central Bank just cleared the backlog of forex demand. How long do you think this will go in addressing this liquidity gap?
The Central Bank of Nigeria has not cleared the whole backlog. I think the information is wrong.
Yes, some part of it. Yeah.
Central Bank of Nigeria, Yemi also made us understand that out of the $7 billion he met, $2.4 billion are questionable. And that also brings us to the next thing. If Yemi Cardoso found $2.4 billion on questionable for what? Why are Nigerians not seeing the list and name of the companies that wanted to scam us of $2.4 billion? It's good for us to know. It's very important for the sake of transparency and accountability. Now, the outstanding $2.5 billion, he has not yet cleared it because there is no dollar liquidity for him to do it. He's taking them gradually, of course, which is a good sign that things will get well. But the truth is, we cannot continue on this piecemeal measure. I have told us what we can do to clear the obligations. We have NNPC today is valued at about $60 billion, even more. Start an urgent process to sell down 55% of the federal government holding in NNPC. If we appoint a Goldman Sachs now to book run this, and they start the process, and Nigeria wants to borrow, say, $20 billion against the receivables and proceeds that will come from those sales, I tell you, investors will grab it. There are many other things we can do to show up the supply side. Yemi Cardoso, like I said, have done the little best he could do based on the available resources available to him. He is not going to print dollar. He's not going to do any magic. Or he has practically exhausted all the monetary policy magic tools that you can deploy for now. The rest of the job is for the physical managers. We can't be talking about dollar illiquidity, and we hear flying around $16 million being signed to take clear a Hajj backlog. It does not make sense. We must, as much as possible, channel every little dollar that we have now into things that add value to this economy. And we must take this urgent step. This is the only urgent step we can take now, because even ramping up output will take time. We need to start urgent process of divesting federal government holding in NNPC to less than 45% or 49%.
Thank you so much, Doctor. Let's go on a break, and when we come back, we will continue this conversation. You're watching Politics Tonight. We're going on a break now, and we'll be right back. Please stay with us.
Doubt and fear doesn't occur at the canvas, it shows in the canvas. It shows the conation of raw earthen material slabbed, stroked and molded at a pace provided by the doubt and fear. Every move way in the struggle of one to the other, merging the past to the present, brushstrokes of colors seen but not known. For when the wailing stops, the pieces settle down in abject beauty erected for a century of a century. Speaking, advocating, protesting as the arts are meant to be.
Welcome back, everyone. Thank you so much for staying with Politics Tonight as we focus on dollar illiquidity, and impact on the Nigerian economy. My guest tonight is Dr. Nnemeka Obiariri, an investment banker, creative financial engineer, and forensic auditor. Doctor, thank you so much for staying with us. Now, I would like us to focus on still some parts of CBN's latest step, which is some prudential requirement that banks must follow. And one of them is the management of the net open position. I'd like you to tell us how this can curb speculative activities in the banking sector.
It was a very good step that Yemi Cardoso took. If you look at the financials of the banks as at the year ended 31st December 2020, we discovered that the top 5 banks, most of them declared hundreds of billions of naira profit. Trillions of naira if you combine, whereas the real sector players, the manufacturers like Nestle, the Cadbury, we are declaring huge losses. Basically what the banks did, I will explain what that net open position means long. You know, we have short, we have long. Simply means banks can keep dollar positions of about 20% of the shareholders on the dollar over a longer period of time. And basically what happened was that, of course, it's like a bet, because it will have gone the other way around and the banks will have lost money. Basically what they did was that they kept monies in dollar positions, and of course, when the market, the naira was devalued, they sold and they made so much money. But of course, like I said, it will have gone the other, if it had gone the other way around, they will have also lost money. What Yemi Cardoso simply said was that you cannot take a long position on the dollar. That means zero long position. Any dollar you're going to keep will be a short position for your transactional need, not betting on the dollar for a longer, which is very, very good. But that does not also address the supply side of dollar, because the banks also get either dollar deposits from their customers or from transactions within the system. Central Bank of Nigeria is still the major custodian of dollar reserves of Nigeria and dollar inflow, because you bring in your dollar or your pounds or your euro, you take naira. Basically, the other thing he did by liberalizing the markets where the IMTOs can bring in money and negotiate at whatever rate is also very, very good. The next thing is to also do is to ensure that exporters of commodities, especially food, agro commodities like the cash crops, should also be able to sell their dollar at whatever they desire. Then that is also where the physical side comes in. If you go to places like Canada today, or Europe, or any other places, most of the agro products like the yam and all those that are being sold in the shelves where people buy them are from Ghana and from the Republic. And if you search deeply, most of those yam from Ghana are from Nigeria. Why would somebody use trailer load to move yam from Nigeria to the Republic to go and ship to Canada or to go and ship? It's because of the madness we have at our exit port. The first time we wanted to export yam under by the vice president, former vice president, the yam that we had in the container decayed in the container after 20 days of not being exported. If you look at exit ports of Kenya, exit port of Ghana, most perishable commodities do not stay at the port for more than 6 hours before it is evacuated. But we have a lot of bottlenecks at the port, exit port, either seaport or airport. So the government of Nigeria, the current government, must establish exit terminals under a private-public arrangement with just one check arrangement, not where all agencies are busy trying to see who they will extort. So that most of these cash stores that are being exported through Ghana and through the Republic can be exported directly through Nigerian borders in such a way that if they bring yam to export or if they bring sesame to export, it can be exported within hours without delay. If we do this, it will encourage farmers. Of course, security will have to put in place to export a lot of exportable things that will enable us to earn foreign exchange. And again, we must also remove the criminal checkpoints by the security agencies along the highways. Those who went to Cote d'Ivoire to watch the Nations Cup, some people told me that they drove 300 kilometers without seeing any police checkpoint. There was no police checkpoint to extort people. So when we fix the physical side, remove some of these bottlenecks that discourages Nigerians from exporting goods and services that can earn us forex, we will boost production, export will be ramped up, and we will earn a lot of foreign exchange. Remember that before the advent of the crude oil, we used to have the Ghana pyramid. We used to have the cotton. We used to have the cocoa of the West. The cocoa building in Ibadan was built with cocoa proceeds, not with crude oil proceeds. Our economy then was growing at an average of 9% per annum. Our naira and our pounds was stronger than the British pounds and the naira because we had a productive economy where the regions control 50% of whatever they produce and pay 30 to the central port and 20 to the federal government. I am even very happy that the National Assembly is considering going back to that 1963 constitutional framework. It will help us when the states will control 50% of the taxes, corporate, personal, and VAT in their states, and even resources. They will be encouraged to look inward. Right. Now you will see everybody going extra mile to protect their community, to have ease of doing business, to encourage investors to come into their states. But under the current practice, where we have people justly in Abuja to share the crude oil and dissipate the money. Let me give you an example. The National Assembly in America, who we copied from, between the National Assembly, House of Rep and Senate, their total budget for the year was $3 billion. American budget for the year was $6.9 trillion, which simply means only 0.04% of American allocation was given to the National Assembly. But look at Nigeria. 344 billion was given to National Assembly members out of a budget of 28.7 trillion, whooping 1.2% and 1.8% of our revenue. If we had to follow the American model, the National Assembly should have gotten anything more than 15 billion naira as allocation. That simply means if we had followed the old arrangement we had when parliamentarians were part-time, when their salaries were tied.
But Dr. Nemeka, can we also, solve this by practicing natural hedging? This means borrowing and lending in the same currency, which the CBN has called a requirement.
See, the truth is, you cannot borrow dollar to do a transaction that cannot give you dollar revenue without hedging. It can be done. Let me tell you, I give you an example now. Apart from the crude oil resources, there are other things that we can produce borrowing dollar that will enable us export. Ghana today does about 800 tons of cocoa annually, which is a major export, apart from the crude oil and the gold. The southwest of Nigeria can actually do 3 million tons of cocoa annually if we put in place the right constitutional and fiscal framework to enable people to look inward and set up cocoa board for the southwest. The southeast can ramp up their coal. Look at their cement reserves. Do a lot of palm oil. As of 1965, Nigeria controlled 45% of the global palm oil market. Today, that market is about $75 billion sized. If Nigeria had maintained that trajectory, today we would have been producing and exporting at $8 billion worth of crude palm oil. But today, we import more than half of what we consume here, which is madness. If we borrow $2 billion today to develop 300,000 hectares of banana palm plantation, with 1,700 processing factories, cottage, across the southeast, south and southwest of Nigeria. Within the next 5 years, we will be producing about $7 billion worth of palm value chain. If we do the same thing with the date palm plantation in the north, 1 million hectares over the next 3 years, annually we'll be getting about $12.7 billion from that date palm plantation. If we decide today to cultivate 1 million hectares of rice plantation, under clusters, using the Geri species from Egypt, we can produce about 9 to 10 to 15 million tons of paddy rice annually and have started to process them. We can cover our supply gap in Nigeria and export to the rest of Africa. But the problem we have is that we have not been scientific in integration and the pursuit of these programs between the federal government, state government, and local government. In fact, the major assignment is for the state and local government areas to even seek the help of federal government to support them in this area. The problem we have that we all focus on Abuja. Everybody's looking at Ahmed Bola Tinubu as if he has the magic wand. If the governors decide today to look inward to develop their states, whether Naira is doing 2,000 Naira to $1, the states will produce enough to be able to hedge the problems in their states.
Doctor, we'll come back to that matter. But before we go there, the central bank will hold its first monetary policy in the next 10 days. What are your expectations from that meeting? My expectation is that Yemi Kaduso should leave the MPR at the rate it is today. Now, the loan-to-deposit ratio of banks should be increased to about at least 75%. Let me tell you what will happen. When the banks have, of course, I also understand the fear of banks. We don't have a central register where you can easily monitor Nigerians. Like in America today, if you borrow money from an American bank and you don't pay, your credit rating will be so destroyed that you wish you never borrowed. But in Nigeria, it is not like that. The Central Bank of Nigeria and the Bankers Committee should also meet to find ways of working with even the ICT ministry to ensure that every Nigerian is documented and brought to the system. NIM should be expanded. I was so shocked to hear from somebody in one of the villages in the southeast. He went to register for his NIM and they were demanding 20,000 naira for him to register for NIM. And this is something that was paid by the World Bank. The federal government of Nigeria, working with the local government, and even the communities across the 8,809 electoral wards, even 176,000 polling booths, should drive the measure to ensure that within the next 6 months, every Nigerian is captured within the NIM framework. When we have a central data of Nigerians, and again, we improve our judicial and the just administration system in Nigeria, the bankers can learn. And again, the Land Use Act. The Land Use Act had been betrayed over time and over time again. We need to amend the Land Use Act in such a way that land everywhere in Nigeria can become a veritable collateral. Today, you cannot use land in Okigwe or some other areas to borrow money from a bank in Lagos, unless you have a house in Banana Land or in Maitama. We need to amend the Land Use Act in such a way that land ownership or transfer of land title should be so easy, so that banks themselves can be able to have security and measures to protect themselves against lending to defaulters. Right. So I want us to talk about the rising cost of goods and services in the country. It's so hard out there. But the CBN governor has assured Nigerians that the country's inflation rates will decline despite the growing cost of food and other necessities. For you, what are the indicators for 2024?
The indicators for 2024 is that if we do not tackle the physical side, it will be worse.
Okay.
Worse than it was even now. And I will explain to you. As I talk to you, our communities, our express roads have become den of kidnappers, of bandits, you see the way they are kidnapping people as if they are kidnapping crayfish. The only way we can bring down the rising food prices, Nigeria has 64 million hectares of arable farmland. Nigeria has a working population of over 211 million, over 211 million Nigerians are under 65 years of age. Nigeria can produce what we eat. We have the highest water tributaries in sub-Saharan Africa. All we need is for the government in place to provide security. And the current security architecture has failed. You need to empower the people to protect themselves. When the people protect themselves and they go back to the farm, under a structured arrangement with government supporting them wholly, we will produce. I'll give you an example. Rice, a bag of rice is 77,000 naira today. How do we bring down a bag of rice? Cultivate new 1 million hectares of Geri species. Set up 1,750, 16 tons per day cottage rice mills. Rice is something that can be cultivated twice a year. provide security for those clusters. By September, October, we will have enough rice production to crash the price of rice. If it is Gary, how many tons of Gary do we consume in a year? How many hectares of cassava farm can we cultivate? Map it out, scientifically draw it. If it is maize, if it is beans, see, my sister, to fix Nigeria is the easiest thing for anybody who is honest and sincere. We are not lazy. We are the most resilient people on planet Earth. The average Nigerian can go to any land to feed himself and his family. What we beg the governments of today? We are not saying you should not loot your fact and jack. Provide the enabling environment, security environment.
So, Dr. Nemeka, pardon me for a minute. So, how do states come in here, and how do you rate that? The complementary roles that state governors should play in reviving our economy?
I will give you example. I come from Imo State. In 2019, till today, I've been begging the governments of the state and other states in the southeast. Dr. Michael Okpara built what we call, go and ask anybody about a resettlement. A resettlement is a 4,200 hectares palm estate. It had roads, it had hospitals, it had schools. People, a man that worked there told me that he lived there for 1 year without leaving that space. That was 39-year-old Michael Okpara over 50 years ago. My state is 650 autonomous community. I beg the governors, provide security for the people. Allow the people to set up, to select their own sons to protect them. Train them. Don't go bring strangers to come and protect them. Then in every community, let them do 50 hectares clusters. Palm plantations, Tenera palm plantations. They can intercrop maize and cassava. We will, in 650 autonomous community, if you have 50 hectares each, we're talking about almost about 30,000 hectares of even forest where kidnappers stay that can be reclaimed for agri production, both cash and food crop. That does not cost the state anything. What the state will do is to set them up into cooperatives. I run one of the biggest agro-processing companies in the Southeast, and there are other people. We can raise private sector funding to set up factories to process whatever is produced at the farm gate, as long as there is security. In the next 1 year, you will have created over 60,000 jobs, direct jobs. You will have added over $120 billion naira into your economy. You will have produced enough food to protect your people and cash crop that can feed them into the next 50 years. A hectare of the palm plantation, the Terra plantation, yields about 25 to 30 tons of fresh food bunch after 7 years. There is no community in Imo State under such arrangement that cannot earn at least 30 million naira annually within those communities. These things are not skyrocket science. You can even set up clusters of mechanized agro settlements in every local government areas. Every of the electoral wards, the basic tractor, caterpillar, under a private-public arrangement. Yemi just talked about he cannot do what the fiscal side can do. If the governors provide this kind of structures in place, Yemi Cardoso, even working with development banks like Afrexim and AFDB, will provide the funding. But Yemi cannot do fiscal job and monetary job. The governors and local government chairmen have a lot of jobs. Any governor that tell you because he does not control the police and army, he cannot protect the people, he's lying to you.
Absolutely. So, Doctor, yesterday, governors of the 36 states met with the president to deliberate on several issues, but particularly the economy. How quick do you see a change or expect a change from that meeting? Rising from that meeting?
Like I told you, it's not enough to meet. It's not enough to talk committee. It's not enough to mount platitudes. Let them go back to their states and work. Let them deploy the FARC and the JAC and the IGR to develop their states. Let them provide security for their people. We've run the numbers. To provide security cover in Imo State today in such a way that we will have a 24/7 economy. It will cost about 29 billion naira under a private-public partnership arrangement. Imo State has over 200,000 diasporas. We can set up a security trust fund that can attract nothing less than 36 billion naira over the next 6 months. But what the people are asking for is for transparency, for accountability. Where I come from in the southeast, we know that what we call communal ndinche. When the white man came into Nigeria, there was one particular region where they said they did not find prison, they did not find criminals, they did not find robbers. In the southeast of Nigeria, the old eastern Nigeria. Because we had ways of checkmating some of these excesses. But politics have scattered everything. We should go back to the basis. The people can protect themselves. The unknown gunmen and the criminals, terrorizing people, are less than maybe 500 or 300 people with the AK-47. If every local government if we have 10,000 indigenous of Imo State, trained 50 from every autonomous community, equipped and armed with AK-47 trucks and drones, you can drive into any part of Imo State any time of day without anybody molesting you. We know what to do, but we allow politics to blind us from. We've done the numbers, 29 billion naira. We know how the money can be raised. We know how it can be deployed. We know how the security measures can be put in place in 6 months. The governor knows they have these things, they don't want to do it.
Doctor, as we wrap up tonight, and I hope you agree with me, this is not the first time we will be having this kinds of conversation. I mean, the revenue allocation given to states has increased since the removal of subsidy, yet most of these states are still languishing. You talked about accountability. How else can we hold these governors accountable?
The only way we can, under our democracy, state assembly members are supposed to hold accountable and checkmate the governors. But of course, we know that they become the errand boys and the house boys of the governor. The same thing for those in Abuja. So it's for us to keep on appealing to their conscience. It's for us to keep begging them. It's for us to keep sharing credible solutions in platforms like your platform. If God will touch them to do the right thing, good and fine. But if they refuse to do the right thing, I tell you, the other day I read where the Sultan was saying, they are holding the people from exploding. See, nobody should threaten anybody in Nigeria. Everybody in Nigeria there's no victim in Nigeria. All of us are complicit in whatever is happening today. We know what to do to fix this land. We need to restructure the constitutional, the physical, resource control, the governance, the socio-economic framework of Nigeria, back to what we had in 1963. When people look inward, when there's accountability, when people can no longer play on ethnicity and religion to hoodwink the ignorant masses, they will be forced to work. Basically, what we have, because there are no consequences during election. People can easily steal elections. There's no accountability. Some of us are helpless.
All right, Doctor.
We are private.
I guess we can wrap up with that.
We keep on appealing to them to do the right things.
Thank you so much. I've been speaking with Dr. Inemeka Obiarere. He's an investment banker, creative financial engineer, and forensic auditor. Thank you so much, Doctor, for your brilliant perspective tonight. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And thank you very much for watching. That marks the end of today's episode of Politics Tonight. But the conversation continues from here. Get in touch with us on Twitter at TVC News NG and at Olajumoke using the hashtag Politics Tonight. We're also on YouTube at youtube.com/TVC News Nigeria. I am Olajumoke Olatuji. Good night and please have a great weekend.
Five questions with Ini. Hi guys, Ini. Your skin is really glowing. What beauty soap do you use?
It's glowing because it's healthy. I use a soap that keeps my skin soft and protected from germs.
But Ini, the beauty soaps I know don't give germ protection.
Dettol Skincare does.
It combines Dettol's protection with argan oil to protect my skin. Gives me 2 times moisturization with a beautiful fragrance. Beautiful skin is germ-free skin.
The new Harpic sachets. It has a thick formula, so all you need is just